Well, thank you. Good morning. Happy Halloween. As Scott said, I'm a former mayor, former MEC chair. I'm just a shadow of myself up here trying to moderate this with these three newly elected mayors. Halloween is an appropriate day to have this conversation because I think mayor is the scariest office in political life. And these three fellows will have a chance to a lot more in the next 3 years and 3/4 to take advantage of that opportunity like I just did. But no commentator less than Thomas Friedman. Those of you who know Thomas Friedman, The World is Flat. His latest column was called, or last month's column was called, I Want to Be a Mayor. And he said he thought that with the gridlock in Washington and the sometimes suffocating budgets and political disagreements in state governments, that the biggest opportunity to affect the quality of life in America today is serving as the mayor of a city or a town. So these three gentlemen are getting ready to have that opportunity, having just come from the legislature in their roles there. Let me give you each of them a quick introduction, and then we'll get to what I think will be a very interesting conversation in the next 20 minutes. Mayor Calvin Buck of Holly Springs. Calvin, raise your hand there. Is a graduate of Rusk College with a master's in public policy and administration from Jackson State University. Mayor Buck served 10 years in the House of Representatives representing Marshall and Benton counties. He chaired the University and Colleges Committee and was vice chair of the Insurance Committee. Please join me in welcoming and congratulating Mayor Calvin Buck. Mayor George Flaggs, Jr. of Vicksburg is a graduate of Hines Community College and Jackson State University. Mayor Flaggs served in the House of Representatives since 1988. He chaired the Corrections Committee and the Banking and Financial Services Committee. Please join me in welcoming and congratulating Mayor George Flaggs, Jr. of Vicksburg. Mayor Billy Hughes of Gulfport is a graduate of the University of Southern Mississippi. Mayor Hughes served in the Mississippi Senate for 20 years. He served as chairman of the Rules Committee and as president pro tem. Please join me in welcoming and congratulating Mayor Billy Hughes of Gulfport. What we'll do now, we've got basically 4 questions, about 5 minutes per question in the next 20 minutes. We'll try to take turns. It's not like a debate. You can say as little or as much as you want to, trying to give everybody a chance. So the first question, we'll start with you, Mayor Buck. We'll go alphabetically. After your years of service in the legislative branch of government, what has been your biggest adjustment in your role as chief executive of your town?
Well, thank you very much, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here. The first and I guess biggest challenge has been the fact that in the legislature you could find an office somewhere and hide and not have to worry so much about running into constituents all the time. Unless they decide to drive down 200 miles to come and visit you. Of course, now you walk out your door, you walk in the stores and all of these other things, you run into everybody and you see them right there face to face on a regular basis, which not only gives you an opportunity to kind of reflect on your job, but it also gives you a chance to really get a sense of what their concerns are. I think the closeness that you have with your constituency, being in the mayor and especially in a small town mayor environment, gives you a real good sense of what the people are looking for. It might be a good lesson for the legislature, to be honest with you, to have that kind of closeness with the constituency.
Thank you very much. Mayor Flaggs?
Well, first of all, let me take the opportunity to thank Hobnob and MEC for having us here, and secondly, say to you that I'm honored to be here, and it is quite different from moving from the legislature down to the mayor of the city. Of course, you go in Walmart. It used to be you go in Walmart, they say, welcome to Walmart, may I help you, please? Representative Flaggs, tell the President of the United States I said hi when you go back. Now when you go in there, it says, welcome to Walmart, may I help you, please? Mayor Flagg, I need my street fixed.
Yeah.
So it's quite a different, but let me just share with you, having served 25 years, 26 years in the legislature, helped me tremendously every day because going from policy to providing services, it's quite an experience, but the challenges of the budget helped me because in the late Fordyce as governor, he used a a conservative principle that I use where we only spend 97% of our budget. We have a rainy day fund. All those tools have helped me to build up a budget. Now, the other challenge is infrastructure, and I was told by the speaker that once a legislator is always a legislator, so I'm going to see, because I'm coming back to the state capitol to ask for about $5 million the first day.
Thank you. Mayor Hughes?
Thank you, Jack. First of all, I think it's very telling. We ought to take a note from that. You look a lot more relaxed than the last time I saw you. So we can take a post from that. I really appreciate Blake and the staff asking me to attend with these guys, and it's good to see a lot of friends. There have been two major paradigm shifts for me. One was going from state-level politics to local-level politics, and that was a huge transition. You know, in the legislature, everything is really subject to deadlines, and to making the adjustment to a daily grind, where, you know, you're dealing with somebody, a fellow who's 87 years old and had his water cut off, and you're trying to help him to trying to bring a major economic development project in your city, and you're trying to juggle all that and still reach across as many lines as you can with your sister communities. That's a task, but it is a daily type of thing, and managing a bunch of folks. The other shift, and maybe a bigger one, is going from the legislative branch to the executive branch. You know, in the legislature, quite often in that time frame, we're playing chess, you know, as far as what's happening within certain deadlines, where things have to be, who's doing what, and understanding how they function, and the system does, but after 90 days or 120 days, it's done. The executive branch, you have to build a different type of team. You have to develop trust with your council. And so I really think the bigger adjustment was just going to the executive side. And I used to get frustrated with governors who didn't seem to have the time to develop those relationships with the legislature. And if their schedule, I know it's a lot heavier than mine ever could be, and I'm busier than I've ever been. But I now have a better understanding and appreciation for why they didn't have the time we thought they should have in developing policy in concert with those folks. But it's been an awakening. You couldn't have told me. I saw George Slogo walking around here, my predecessor, and
George is here. I saw him right back there.
I should have known George, and you tried to warn me, but they tell me when George is about 6 months into his term last time, he was introducing himself as the temporary mayor of Gulfport, Mississippi. So.
Well, thank you. Thank each of you. Second question, some of you mentioned the budgets already as something that obviously you're the final say on. You present the budget to your communities. As mayor, my experience certainly was, and I know you all have just been in for three or 4 months so far, but you've already had to go through one budget cycle. It seems to me one very different perspective would be, speaking from a lot of mayors, some of whom in the audience today, is that we mayors used to think there was somewhat of a big brother attitude in the legislature about how you should be spending your money or not spending your money. And having that now change chairs a little bit, I'll give a couple of ideas I know that we were working on and what your thoughts are now that you're a mayor. One would be the seat of the Community for Economic Development Act, which basically is local option sales tax to fund economic development issues in your city if your citizens vote to tax themselves to put in a new sewer system or a new park or whatever. Another would be the PERS, basically the unfunded mandate for the cities to have to pick up a larger portion of the PERS without any money coming from to help it. And that money just came, and then Tupelo and y'all's too, obviously, just right off the bottom line. Just talking with Mayor Flaggs, maybe we'll start with you this time and go around on either of those issues or any other idea as far as that difference between looking at being the champion of your own city's budget and what you need to do about it.
Well, you talked about the budgets and everything, but you know, I'm a physical conservative. I have not changed. I just moved down to a mayor of the city, so I still don't believe in raising taxes, and I'm not going to support raising taxes at the state level. I believe you ought to pay within your checkbook. Now, they asked me what that means, being a fiscal conservative. It means you balance your checkbook with your checkbook, not your checkbook with your savings account. Very simple. Now, having said that, I do believe that the state should give us some more additional tools to use at the local level so that we can move money around. And if you allow me to do that, I think we can do it. The other thing is that I think these gentlemen will say the most critical need in the community is infrastructure. We have about a 100-year-old infrastructure, and every time we turn around, something has happened. The other thing, we have a lot of antebellum homes and historical homes, so if the state could help us in tourism to generate some money so that we can enhance the tourism, especially in Vicksburg, and we can start with MEC. If MEC would just move this conference, this program to Vicksburg one time in my next 3 years, I may get reelected.
That's a good use of the podium. Mayor Hughes?
Yeah, be careful what you ask for, George. You may get it. I was fortunate enough to, I think, to be unopposed. And the good news there is I had 4 months to get ready. The bad news is I had 4 months to get ready. And so a lot of things we were looking at is carrying over and having a smooth transition from the previous administration to ours. And in doing the transition, we had a lot of feedback, analyzed all the departments and divisions. And certainly the budget really did dominate a lot of that conversation. But it really came down to the leadership we were trying to establish and empower our own directors to take their direction. And I've got 3 of them here today. I've got Greg Petrangelo with Urban Development, our police chief, Leonard Papania, and our fire chief, Mike Bierstedt. And they have so far made my job very easy from that standpoint because their attitude was one of leading by example. And the overriding thing was that we understand it's tight, we've got needs, but if you just tell us what number we have to be at, we'll manage to that number. And you talk about a refreshing approach to things. And so that attitude has really kind of permeated the rest of the divisions. And so we're working as a good unit. From a legislative standpoint, as far as the ask, most budgetary items that we may have that would come to that level usually are project specific. We did have a recommendation that the previous administration had been working on to deal with our water and sewer. We've had some flooding issues, drainage issues. Every city has them. They're always going to be there no matter who's there or how long you're there. But we took on a very significant, about a 12-year plan that's going to take some bonding for the city, but the council is committed to that. So we'll start building out and doing some things that Gulfport needs.
Mayor Buck, thank you.
I think that's a very good question, and I think the main focus of your question was relating to the search program, the search option. And I think that we have to really take a couple of things in consideration. One of the first challenges we faced as mayors coming into this position is dealing with a budget. The other part of that was all of the things that were not being done as it relates to infrastructure, all the things that were related to things like streets and water and sewer that we know there is no way at the city or municipal level we'll be able to have the funds and resources to be able to do it under the current structure and revenue sources that we have. And so the question becomes, how long can we continue to go in that direction? How long can the cities continue to neglect the maintenance and routine kinds of maintenance things that they need to deal with if we don't have some other options on the table to bring in some resources? So, that I was clear about that when I was in the legislature, and I'm even more clear about that now as a member of the mayor's team. We are faced with these very difficult challenges relating to major infrastructural projects that we have no way, no resources really to achieve those goals. And so the people are crying for these things, and the question becomes, is there a way that the legislature can work with municipalities to make that a possibility so that we can address some of these issues? They only get more costly the longer we allow them to go without being addressed.
Thank you. As I say, you'll keep going forward. Those will continue to be everyday challenges. Next question, and we'll start with Mayor Hughes with you on this. Balance for us around the state. We've got mayors from basically 3 different parts of the state: the coast, the central part of the state, and the north part of the state. For those of us not on the coast, what are your biggest challenges in Gulfport or the coast, and your biggest opportunities to face those challenges?
Right now, I think it is outside of economics, which are always something we have to deal with in these budget cycles, but I think it is getting our folks, our citizens, our council members, and even our staff outside of a ward mentality, to think beyond themselves and understanding that, as a rising tide lifts all boats. And while we've got opportunities within our own city, there are things that touch us that go beyond our lines. In our area, obviously, tourism is a huge part of our economy. We've got pretty good diversity, but the visitors don't know where the line ends and begins. Crime doesn't stop, or need doesn't begin and end there. And so if we take care of ourselves and encourage development regionally, I think that's going to serve us quite well. But you're always looking for that next big thing. Gulfport has become developed a reputation as a festival city. We do events quite well, and we're continuing to have it some just about every year. That green space and that harbor we have are world class, and people recognize that in the Gulf South there's not a better facility. And so, as George Slogan would articulate, he said that's Mississippi's front yard. And people like to come. Our residents spend a lot of time down there, but it's not just about the harbor. That's just a focal point. But we're experiencing some vibrancy. We work with, for over the last few years, with Main Street USA, just doing facade grants. And it's amazing what a little bit of paint and just fixing up will do. In our downtown, the running talk is it's harder to find a spot at night for parking than it is during the day. So that's a great problem. We're just going to continue to build on that attitude, though.
Thanks. Mayor Buck, what do you see up in your part of the state, our part of the state, yours and mine, as both your challenges and your opportunities?
Well, I think the primary challenge we face is the challenge of preparing our workforce to be hired. We have some significant challenges as it relates to workforce development. I was glad to hear the speaker talk a little bit more about that during his presentation. When it comes to trying to bring in jobs and economic development, the key factor that they're looking for is how prepared your workforce is. And so we have really we've recently experienced the closing of the Wind Center in our area, which was designed to kind of make a connection between jobs and the employers. And so with that, we have decided to open up our own Jobs and Innovation Center and collaborate with the other adjacent counties and the municipalities in that area to provide that training with Northwest Community College and provide the facility to try to address our issues relating to job development and workforce development. And so that's a big challenge. Of course, we have all the other challenges that any city would have, and that is the revenue stream that we're having to deal with and try to make sure we maintain our services. But if I was to say that there was any challenge, it is the challenge to try to create and put in a system that will get our workforce ready for the different kinds of jobs that we anticipate coming into our area.
Thank you so much. Mayor Flaggs, what about Vicksburg?
Well, we don't look at challenge. We don't look at them as challenges in Vicksburg, Mississippi. We look at them as opportunity to showcase our city. We believe we have the best city in the state. We have the best good-looking city. We have the best tourism in the state. We have a national military park. So we just want to connect our park with the rest of the world. We got the best chamber of commerce. We got the best downtown. All we have to do is just sell it. And the other thing is, as it relates to, we have the river, we have the rail, we have I-20. We're the gateway from the west. So we're telling business, particularly those business people here today, we're in business, stay in business. So if you come to Vicksburg, you invest in Vicksburg, we'll make it a climate conducive for you. We don't raise taxes, we just give you an opportunity to make a profit. So if you come to Vicksburg, you come to our casinos, you do all those things, you'll leave happy. And that if it was a challenge, it was a challenge to create a mindset that Vicksburg can become the best city of the state. And I think people are excited, they're buying into it, and because of that, we're creating jobs, opportunity. We hadn't raised no taxes. So I wanted to share with the tourism on the coast with my friend Billy, and I want to share with what they do in Holly Springs. I'm just simply saying, if you come to Vicksburg, you won't regret it.
Thank you very much. Next question, one of the opportunities that I enjoyed and you will and already having the opportunity to do is also to be acquainted with mayors around the country and the region, not just the state of Mississippi. When I was going to the National League of City meetings, the number one issue on a lot of mayors' minds, it was because they were representing their own retailers, was the dramatic difference in internet sales and storefront sales in their own town. It affects the jobs of the people that work in those towns, and obviously it affects the tax revenue because you're not getting that sales tax, which helps. And of course the state was interested in that as well. But just some figures that I got before I left the mayor's office, the last two Christmases, internet sales increased 20% a year in 2011 and 2012. Same store brick and mortar sales increased 2%. So you see how dramatic that is. in working with other mayors or in an opportunity to look at these kinds of issues to help your own budgets and keep your own retailers employed. Have you given any thought, have you talked about, have you heard from your people about the opportunity to collect that internet sales tax? Mayor Hughes, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I'm thinking of looking out, Jim Blevins of Pascagoula. A lot of us new mayors have kind of tried to get together, and he's provided some great leadership as far as networking and talking about just these type of things as far as what's impacting us, and that's part of our discussion. But, you know, the brick and mortar component is crucial. Just like when we look at economic development or groups looking to come in here, we try to incentivize them if they'll put their headquarters here, anywhere in Mississippi. But the internet tax is something that we hear from retailers all the time. If they're going to put their monies and their footprint in here, then it is a justifiable discussion. Really, I think it's something that needs to be moved ahead so we can act on that, so we can level the playing field, because right now they're up against groups that can discount and not charge them shipping, not charge them taxes, and it puts our locals at a competitive disadvantage, and we need to level that out.
Thank you.
Of course,
Flags, go ahead.
Of course, you know, internet tax is a federal regulation. It requires the Congress to act. We're not going to wait on them in Vicksburg, Mississippi. What we do, we change attitude. We do is, my good friend Mayor Hughes said, we promote Vicksburg by buying in Vicksburg first. We encourage folks to go downtown, go to our outlet mall, go to All Out Mall, stay in our hotels and restaurants, come eat our food, do all those good things locally. And when you do that, that helps in the local economy, that helps the sales tax, that helps the city budget, and we live by example. In fact, I sold a 5-bedroom house and moved into a condo on the Mississippi River, downtown Vicksburg, to show that I want to live by example, so that they can know that if you reinvest in your own community, you can grow your community. You don't have to raise taxes, and you don't have to rely upon those type of tax increase, and that's what we do. We live by example. We share. We buy into our own community. We change an attitude through education, through healthcare, and through all the things. We work with our Chamber of Commerce. We work with all the Port Commission. And we work with the Board of Supervisors, Recreation. We do all those things, and I think Vicksburg, you won't know it in 2 years.
Thank you. Just one correction, though. That's not raising taxes on that internet sales. It's just collecting the taxes. But, Mayor Buck?
Absolutely.
It's raising if it comes from Washington, D.C.
Absolutely. I think you're right, Mayor.
That's not so.
The point of the matter is that there should be a reasonable approach for both those businesses that are already in our communities with the brick and mortar and invest in that way, and those businesses that may be in China somewhere doing business in our area and we're not collecting any revenue from that. I think the biggest challenge for those businesses that do exist is that they want a fair playing field when it comes to doing business. You know, that's a considerable markup that you have to take into consideration when you talk about your profit margin, when one person can get away with not having to pay, you know, charge any shipping, not have to charge any kind of taxes, anything like that. That puts somebody else at a disadvantage. So I think the issue is just an issue of reasonable approach to making it a fair playing field for all doing business.
Thank you. Well, that is about concluding our opportunity for discussion with these three mayors. I'll just say this to all of you in the audience that are not elected officials. Governor William Winter said once that the most important position, the most important office you can have is public-spirited private citizen, a public-spirited private citizen. And I can tell you as a mayor myself, your critics are normally louder and more public, and your supporters are quieter and more private. So for all of us private citizens, and I've rejoined your ranks now, if you feel like your mayors or your legislators who are doing a good job, I hope you'll tell them, and I hope you'll stand up for them when they're doing progressive things, because if you want to do nothing, you're not going to get shot at. But if you put your head up and you want to try something progressive, you're going to hear about it you're going to be criticized. There's no doubt about that. So my last word would just be for all of us private citizens, if you feel like you can support and want to support your mayor, these mayors, any of us, please do so. It'll make a tremendous difference. Thank you, gentlemen, again. I think we'll see great things in Gulfport, Vicksburg, and Holly Springs thanks to your leadership. Thank you all, and happy Halloween.
Thank you.